Hey guys, I'm going to talk to you now about every powder that MAC currently has in production in the US that I could find. As of right now, which is sometime in the spring of 2016. Now, let's clarify, what do I mean when I say every powder? It's a very good question. Or even, as I mentioned before, in production. Or even, is it really 2016? This is a question I ask myself all the time. What is the meaning of everything? How can I, without ever actually trying, what is the best way for me to get an A in my geometry final when my geometry final was 25 years ago? These are all legitimate questions that I can help you answer. But instead, let's talk about what you can and cannot expect from this video. For the next, I don't know, hour or 10 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking to you about MAC's setting powders primarily. I'm going to be showing you the powders. I'm going to be telling you a little bit about what MAC says about these products, and then sharing my own uncensored, educational, informative, insightful, if we're lucky, and appropriate thoughts on all of these products. Which ones are my favorites? Which ones aren't my favorites? Do I think certain ones are better for certain skin conditions? Bronzing powders, highlighting powders, color correcting powders, sculpting, shaping powders, all of those powders will be included in this video. I will be showing you swatches on the screen, so if you're shopping and you want to compare them, you can do that. Otherwise, we're just going to talk briefly about those in a sort of generalized kind of way. To be clear and avoid any confusion, I don't work for MAC. I've never worked for MAC. I purchased all of these products myself, believe it or not. None of them were sent to me for review or any other purposes at all. And so all of these opinions are really my own. MAC makes a lot of very specific and sometimes grandiose, in my opinion, claims on their products, like 80 million hour wear time or perfect for all skin types. And I don't pay much attention to those when I'm doing a review. I just kind of ignore them and look at how the product works. The truth is, every body is different, and you're really going to have to test a product out to know if it's going to work for you, and it also may change over time. Now that all that is said, let's get started because we got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to start with MAC's Select Sheer Pressed Powder. This is available in 13 different shades. Most of MAC's powders come in these little black compacts. MAC says this is a lightweight, translucent pressed powder that allows the skin's natural vitality and freshness to glow through. Exceptionally fine particles create a blah blah matte finish, blah blah soft focus, blah blah pressed portability, comes with its own sponge. This is a talc-based powder, making it very, very soft and silky to the touch. I consider this to be MAC's base model powder. If you want a basic face powder and you want to buy it from MAC, this is the one to go for. I do think that this is a formula that you can find in a drugstore, to be completely frank. Doesn't make it a bad formula. I like the powder just fine. I just think that it's a little kind of plain. And there's nothing wrong with plain. Pro Longwear Pressed Powder. This is available in 11 shades, and MAC says for a wet-proof velvety matte finish, try MAC Pro Longwear Powder Press, which promises zero shine with zero sheer to medium coverage in 12 hours in any climate, whatever. Now available in a range of blah blah shades. So this is a mica silica based powder. It does contain the third ingredient, boron nitride. Am I pronouncing that right? I should probably look that up before I say it. I do know that that is an ingredient usually added to products for oil absorption. This is MAC's long-wearing powder. I'm not saying it's not long-wearing. I'm just saying that it depends on your skin type, the conditions that you live in, and your activity level, in my opinion. But what do I think of it? I actually really like this powder. I think it's a great powder. I actually think that it is a great alternative to Select Sheer Pressed if you are looking for a base model powder without a lot of frills, bells, and whistles, and you don't want a and you don't want a formula where talc is the first ingredient. Definitely worth checking out. And I think both of those first powders are well suited for a variety of different skin types, to be quite honest. If you take care of your skin, you're wearing moisturizer, the right kinds of products for your face, neither of those are going to be troublesome for oily or dry skin. Side note, Pro Longwear in Dark Plus is a very nice bronzer shade if you are somewhere around my skin tone, which is like an NW 15 to 20, depending on the time of the month. Now let's talk about Blot powder. Blot powder, which kind of has, I'm holding that upside down, sort of has a horrible sounding name when I say it out loud, is available in a pressed compact in 5 different shades or a loose formula in a jar in just one shade, in medium. This is one of the times when I'm going to say the claims that are on MAC's website I completely agree with. This is actually, I've mentioned this before, my favorite powder from MAC. I do prefer the pressed version, just an opinion. The pressed one is mica based, the loose one is talc and silica based. They both have a very similar finish to the skin, both very silky, smooth, zero texture, zero buildup, just mattifying, incredibly sheer, very natural looking, very, very natural looking. This is a product that you can carry around and touch up throughout the day and not have to worry about it looking cakey or building up, in my opinion, especially if you have, I'm going to say, normal to dry skin. Oilier skin types might find this to be just not quite enough. So that does kind of come into play as to whether or not you're going to really, really like this. People with really oily skin, I have heard talk about this and go, ick, ew. So it depends. I love it. I think it's an amazingly, really nice looking setting powder and very, very natural looking. And that's what I like about it. It doesn't look powdery. Now let's talk about MAC's Mineralize Skin Finish Natural. Now, this used to come apparently all over the floor. I hate, by the way, the new compacts because I can't tell. I know the MAC is written here and that's where you open it, but I'm always trying to open the wrong side. I'm like, why won't it work? This used to come in a compact with a clear top. This comes like this now. MAC says this is a luxurious, slow-baked, domed powder with their like 77 mineral complex. I have no idea what that is, and I don't really think that I care. This is mica, talc, dimethicone. This is a very nice baked powder. Comes in a variety of shades. I think it's like 18 shades now, including 2 bronzing colors. Mineralized Skin Finish Natural is actually one of my favorite powders from MAC. If you want to use it as a powder foundation, it works wonderful. It's great men's makeup or no makeup. I have 2 of these for myself. One here and then one that I keep in a bag, and I will just swirl on the face if I want just a little bit of coverage. It has a little bit of a shine to it or of a sheen, so it doesn't look too matte and too powdery. Then the Mineralized line, they also have Mineralized Foundation Loose. Now, this is technically a foundation, but you can use it as a setting powder. It has a very similar look to the Mineralized pressed powder, a little less glowy, and it has more coverage because it's designed to be a foundation. If you're using this as a foundation, I know a lot of people like to use this wet. You can also, just my favorite way to use loose mineral foundations, personally on my dry skin, is to mix this with a moisturizer, a little in the palm of your hand, mix it up, and then put it on like a liquid or a cream. Looks really, really nice. Now, if you want a powder foundation like the Mineralized pressed powder, you're going to be wearing it as a foundation, but you want more coverage, or if you want a lot of coverage and a matte look to your regular setting powder, MAC Studio Fix Powder Plus Foundation, I think is the full name for this stuff. This is available in a whopping almost, I think it's like 48, 50 shades now. It is probably the best pressed powder foundation I've ever used. Talc based, so it's very, very smooth, very silky feeling on the skin. I can wear this with my dry skin. I just prep with usually an oil based moisturizer or a little oil. There's also one that I use as a bronzer. This is NW45. This used to come in a matte white shade that I can't find on the website anywhere, and that's how I got this list. I just browsed the website. I don't know where it went, and I hope it comes back, but it was awesome as a highlighter, as a white eyeshadow. I loved it. A lot of people who have very oily skin really, really like this. Oh, there's the matte white one. Really, really like this powder because it's a nice full heavy matte coverage. Do be aware, and I've mentioned this before, the product contains a high amount of titanium dioxide in it, making it more likely to cause a flashback in amateur flash photography. So if you're kind of out at a club with your friends and you take a picture, you're going to look a couple shades lighter wherever you apply this stuff than it actually looks in person. Moving on to Studio Care Blend, comes in 8 different shades. MAC says an extremely soft cream-like powder that glides onto the skin and provides a smooth, fresh-looking natural matte finish enhanced with ingredients to help skin feel conditioned and comfortable. This is talc-based, has a nice smooth texture, but not as silky as some of the other talc-based powders that MAC has. It's okay. It has more of a creamy, almost wet feel to it. If you have dry skin and you need a setting powder, this is one to check out. It does look like setting powder. I don't think that it is as natural as Blot powder, but this is formulated with a lot of oils in the powder, which is probably what gives it that kind of hydrating, kind of liquidy sort of texture. It's very smooth. It's very nice. One of my favorites, especially for dry skin types. Moving on to Studio Sculpt Defining Powder. This is also available in 8 different shades. This is a gel infused powder, blah, blah, whatever. MAC says something stupid. This is the worst powder I've ever used, and I have no idea what people smoke that post on the MAC website. This gets rave reviews. People really love it. It's incredibly sheer, incredibly sheer. I've made the comment before that I think that you would get more coverage if you just swirled your brush on the plastic and then applied that to your face. It's so stiff. You swirl your brush on it, you put it on your face, there's nothing there. So you swirl your brush on it, and the oils that you got from your brush create a hard film on this that needs to be scraped off. I think this is a horrible piece of crap powder. I don't know why it's still in production. They make bronzers in this formula in the summer. I also think that those suck. I can't stand this stuff. I think it's really dumb. If you love it, then hooray for you. I'm glad that it's available. Now let's move on to Select Sheer Mystery Powder, which comes in this really, really cool compact. You're just going to get this powder for the looks. It is a talc-based powder. It feels very similar to Select Sheer, in my opinion. It is MAC's most expensive powder. It comes in only 4 shades. You do get a refill with it when you buy it, which is nice. It is less product in the pan than a normal pressed powder, but not by much. This is what, like 0.8 grams, and typically you get, I think, 0.11. Nothing really makes this powder special and outstanding. It's just the texture. They always say that this has come out before with limited edition collections. It's finally permanent. They always talk about how it's a silky, soft, luxurious, but it's just a pressed powder. There's nothing really exciting about it. I think it's fine for dry skin. If you have really oily skin, you're probably going to be reapplying a lot because it's so sheer and so kind of silky soft. But it's a nice powder. I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. You're just going to buy it for the compact because the compact is kind of cool. All right, now let's talk about a couple transparent finishing powders that MAC has. This is Invisible Set Powder. This has been around for a very, very long time. This is a talc-based formula, and it used to come in a variety of different colors. Actually, you got this one, and then in a smaller size, it came in, I think, 4 other colors. There was a peach, a yellow, the same colors, believe it or not, that MAC's CC color correcting powders come in, which I'll show you in a moment. It came in those, except instead of the purple lavender shade, they came with a white. It's a fine powder. It's nice. I think that there are far more outstanding and better formulas out there for invisible setting powders, including MAC's Prep and Prime transparent finishing powder. But if you're doing body work and you need to set it, or you just want something that's cheap, this is great because you get a lot for the money and it's a nice powder. There's still ones that you can get that are cheaper that I think are better. In particular, Ben Nye's I really, really like. I'm talking very quietly so that they don't hear me. I don't know why. But if you want something from MAC, it's fine. Since I mentioned it, let's talk about MAC's Prep and Prime Transparent Finishing Powder. This comes in a loose formula and a pressed formula. Different ingredients. This has a lot more ingredients than this. This is mostly cornstarch. This is mica, silica, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm assuming to make it hold up in a pan. I don't like the finish of this as much as this on the skin. I just don't think that the pressed one looks as invisible and sort of line diffusing and airbrushed as this does. We'll set that one aside and say, it's okay. If you like it, then that's great. It's portable and that's really cool. This is a very nice powder. It's much better than their Invisible Set Powder. It looks nicer on the skin. It's very line diffusing and gives a nice airbrushed look. I don't think it's entirely invisible. It's a little bit expensive for what you get. It's not my favorite invisible setting powder, and just because it's not, I will mention my favorite. I've talked about it before, is Diamond Perfect Finish by Purely Cosmetics. I think it's a much better product. It doesn't cause any flashback in photography. It just looks nicer on the skin. You need a lot less to make the skin look nice. And I would just personally rather support an indie company who makes a product I really, really, really love than MAC. Does that sound bad? They're not going out of business if I don't buy this. Now, also in the Prep and Prime family, let's see if I can show you all of these. They have their, oh, now they're already dropping on the floor. They're color correcting powders that are available in 4 different shades and 2 different formulas. These are the loose ones. And then they also have them in pressed compacts, which are right here. I have all 4 of them here. There's really no need for me to show them all to you though. Again, the ingredient list is different between the loose and the pressed formula, same as their Prep and Prime one. I'm going to read MAC's description on what the colors are supposed to do, and then we're going to talk about them. So, Adjust is a muted peach that brings warmth to dull skin. Illuminate is a pastel lavender that brightens sallow skin. Neutralize is a soft yellow that neutralizes red skin. And Recharge is a deep peach that corrects blue and purple shadows. I have heard some people say that they use these as like foundation products. They can use one in one area and one in another, and it's great and makes the skin look flawless. I have done tests with these where I did one color on one side and one color on the other, and I could not see a difference at all. I don't think that they're bad. I think that they're fine. I think they're basically invisible setting powders. They have a little bit of a tint to them that I personally can't really see. So I think if you want an invisible setting powder, pick the shade that is going to complement your skin the best or that gives the desired effect that you need, and just get the one. Now, alternately, MAC makes these shaping powders that come in a pro pan that you then get a little palette for if you want to keep them. These come in 5 different shades. They also make sculpting powders, highlight and contour. These have been around for quite a while. They're really nice, well worth getting. If you are a makeup artist, if you're doing makeup on a lot of people, pick them up. If you just have the money and you want to play around, pick them up. They're really not that expensive because they're just available in the pans. I know that Emphasize is a very popular highlighter. This has come out before in different sort of versions, whether it's a duo or whatever. Sculpt is a very popular contour powder. I also really like Shadowy, which is the darker one here. I enjoy playing around with these powders a lot. You can use them as an eyeshadow, whatever you'd like. The contour shades are really, really nice. Most of them are very cool toned or muddy. They look like actual shadow instead of a bronzing color, but there are some warmer shades in here as well. Speaking of bronzers, let's talk about MAC's bronzing powders. They come in 4 different shades. I'm going to open them up and show them to you here. We have bronze, golden, refined golden, and then matte bronze. This is the only matte one in the range. The rest of them have some amount of frost or shimmer. I like that there's a matte one included. I really like all of these colors. I think that they're great. I use golden and matte bronze probably the most often on myself. They have kind of a firmer press and are a little bit sheer in coverage, so you can build. It's easy to not make a mistake or over bronze. By comparison, if you are familiar with Estee Lauder's Bronze Goddess bronzers, those are much softer, much more pigmented. The bronzing colors that are in the Mineralize Skin Finish Natural range from MAC are much more pigmented than these, much softer, a lot more coverage. That doesn't make them necessarily better. I actually like the sheer look that these have, that you can actually get a soft bronze to them and not really worry about overdoing it. I really like these ones. These are some of my favorite bronzers. I use them all the time. Now, 2 more things I'm going to talk about. One is MAC's Mineralized Skin Finish powders. These come in, I'm not going to show you all these, but you'll see swatches on your screen. These come in 6 different shades right now that are permanent. Cheeky Bronze, Global Glow, Gold Deposit, Lightscapade, Soft and Gentle, and Warm Rose. Again, MAC talks about this luxurious slow-baked formula that has their 77 mineral thing. These are mica and talc-based powders, often very shimmery. There's usually limited edition colors that come out all the time, so they're easy to find in other shades besides these 6. The ones that are more matte, people like to use as a bronzer or as a blush. The ones that are more shimmery, people like to use as a highlighter. There's one shade in here that I thought was really strange, and that is Warm Rose, which is very pretty in the pan. It has a little bit of a pink microfine glitter in it, but otherwise it is a pretty much straight up matte powder. I think it looks sort of chalky and on the skin. Now, one last thing I want to talk about, and then we are done. MAC's beauty powders. I have just a couple of these here, and they're not the most exciting colors because they're both matte and they're both very pale. These are not permanent, so I was hesitant to mention them. Currently not permanent. However, beauty powders come out all the time with different collections, so it's really easy to find ones on the website. They're limited edition, but there are almost always at least 1 or 2 colors in stock, if not more. They're usually typically talc based powders, incredibly smooth, incredibly silky feeling, and kind of like MSF powders, can either be highlighters, blushes, maybe even bronzers, setting powders. I use this one, Hot Sensation, as a setting powder on me under the eyes. They're very, very nice. They usually have very little color in them. And honestly, the reason people like them, in my opinion, is just because they're usually really pretty. They come in very pretty, very friendly shades. It's difficult to overdo them, so you can really pile them on the face. I don't usually jump on them and go, oh, I have to have that one. Oh, that's so cool. But if it's one that I know that I'll use, definitely, because it has that nice, sheer, silky feel to it. All right, guys, that's it. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. That is all of MAC's powders. These will most likely change, this lineup. By the time I post this video, half of this might be discontinued and new products might come out. That's just the way makeup works. But I hope that this gives you some sort of help when you're looking for something. If you like one of these powders for a specific reason, if you love them, if one of them is like, oh, this is my favorite powder, leave it in the comments section. Tell us, though, why you like it. And it would be great if you could say what your skin type is. If you have oily skin, dry skin, anything like that, any concerns, so that people can see and go, oh, that's me. Maybe I'll like that powder as well. If you have any other questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And until I see you next time, which will be soon, please remember, take care and drive safe.